Here we go. I'm Rita Hickman, and I help women in narcissist and toxic relationships find their way out. I help them get some peace. I help them figure out how their body-mind works. And I do it in a way that doesn't mean that you have a lot of fights or arguments. I do it in a way where you learn how to be graceful, mainly because the biggest thing that gets in your way is yourself. And that's such a highfalutin, I'm an angel on the mountain sort of attitude. I totally get that. But it's the only way to start taking control of a situation. Because when you realize that when you are angry and you are hurt and you are reacting, that there actually is something you can do about it inside yourself that doesn't require a narcissist to do anything or be anything, because you know how difficult it is to make them do anything. That's why we're having this conversation today about how to negotiate with a narcissist. So, when you're trying to negotiate with a narcissist, it means that you're talking to someone who has only one interest in mind, themselves. They're in a place where they're looking out for themselves, they're looking out for their best interests, they're looking out for what's safest for them, and they're not being rational. Even if they sound rational, being really logical and black and white and definitive and unemotional is a sign, it's one of the types of ways that people respond to being insecure, to being on edge, to feeling anxious inside of themselves. So, even when a narcissist or any toxic person seems critical and overly logical, it doesn't mean that they're in their right mind. They're actually in a different part of their mind. Whenever someone is angry, whenever they are disassociating, whenever they're people-pleasing, whenever they're putting their head down and going into denial and putting their nose to the grindstone, whether their thinking is rigid and black or white, those are ways that people cope with being in a state of fight or flight, with being in a state of dysregulation, off balance. And when that happens, the way you try to normally negotiate, the way you try to normally communicate or talk won't work, because everything that you say is going to be a button pusher. Everything that you say is going to bring out the worst qualities in them, and you'll end up in a fight again. So typical, I remember through the years going through so many classes about good communication, and the idea used to be, what I hear you saying, what I think you're saying, let me repeat that back to you to make sure that I got that right. That's how I was taught to have good communication in all those workshops, all those classes that you took for your job or in school, how to communicate better, how to be a better, get your point across. And you've probably been trying that and trying desperately, and it hasn't worked. You've tried to have that control, and you've tried to have a reasonable conversation, and there's no getting anywhere because they're blaming you, and they turn on a dime, and reality doesn't matter, and the truth is subjective, and and you hurt them. I mean, it becomes this, like you're walking through a madhouse, like you're walking through a house of mirrors, because all you see are all these different visions which make no sense to you, and wondering what the hell is happening. That's because you're not having a normal conversation with someone who is calm and centered. You're having a conversation with someone whose main goal is to protect themselves at all costs. And that means you actually have to negotiate differently. So there's a tool that Chris Voss likes to use, and he's a hostage negotiator, well known, and it's called tactical empathy. And tactical empathy is where you see someone else's point of view, and you recognize or acknowledge their point of view. And then, because you're calm and they're out of balance, you're able to have a conversation which moves you in a positive direction. you walk into your house and you should be able to ask for a sandwich. And if you were unfortunate enough to be in a relationship with someone who's so dysregulated, and you ask them for a sandwich and they threaten to, take the battery out of your car because they're mad, or they threaten to, call your family and tell them what a horrible human being you are because you asked for a sandwich. That's kind of your cue that you're with someone who is unstable. That's not rational. That's not reasonable. For someone to blow up over the smallest things, that's not a healthy relationship. And what it tells you is that this person is in a place of reaction. They're in a place of fight or flight, and they can't think clearly. I liken it to a narcissist feels like they are constantly being cornered by someone or something, and they need to react in as strong of a way that they can to protect themselves. And feel safe, then many times they become a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more rational. Women get confused a lot because things will happen, like they'll have a parent die, or some big thing will happen. And a narcissist, for a temporary period of time, because you threatened them, because you deserve it, for whatever reason, they may give you a break. They may start treating you nicer. That's because on their scale of, can I take my anger out on this person or can I not? They don't feel it's fair anymore. So temporarily they'll treat you nicer. That's kind of your way in. When you start to recognize what pushes a narcissist's buttons, not in a way that makes them angry, but in a way that helps them be calmer and see a clear path through the discussion, through the conversation. It's like you're holding a space to help them figure it out that they're not doing things that will help them in the long run, that the choices that they're making are ultimately going to hurt them, and that if they don't make different choices, then ultimately they're going to have a lot of chaos and difficulty in their life. Narcissists have the ability to make the choice. They aren't out of control. They've just chosen to take it out on you for what they feel are good reasons. Maybe you deserve it because you did something to them. Maybe that's just their pattern. Maybe they think that's how you stay safe. You bully and berate and dominate someone else. But they aren't monsters. That's one of the things we have to realize. Most narcissists aren't monsters, even though they come across as monsters. They're monsters when they're dysregulated. They're monsters when they think that they're losing, when they're overwhelmed and frustrated. Absolutely, they act like monsters. But many times narcissists, if you can recognize that you have a lot more power than you think you do, and you start using it when you communicate, and you communicate from a place of groundedness and balance, not from a place of overwhelm and fear, you start to get ahead of the game. Because a narcissist, when they're triggered, they're actually a lot less smart than you are when you're balanced. Normally what feels like, is a narcissist is triggered, it gets you triggered. Now it's a big mess, and the narcissist, because they're familiar with being in this position, of controlling and dominating a fight, they're familiar with it. So they're okay, because this is how they spend most of their time, fighting and manipulating and lying and controlling. So they're smarter than you when you're dysregulated, but when you start learning how to calm your nervous system, you become smarter than them. Because now you are able to see what's going on clearly, and you'll see patterns in what a narcissist is saying. You'll become aware of the buttons that get them to behave better. So there was a lot of people who have narcissistic parents learn some skills that help them stay a little bit sane. And they learn what their parents' buttons are when they need to get the things that they need to get. And the biggest problem is we don't allow ourselves to use the leverage and the power that we have. Many times we'd say, I would never do that. I would never threaten that my mom couldn't see the grandkids, because it's just against your nature. But in reality, it can take threats which are that real and that big that you really have power over in order to get a narcissist to take a step back and maybe think twice about what they're saying. When they're attacking, it's automatic. This is just what they do. It's the pattern. I'm going to attack. I'm a predator. I'm going to win. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to make them feel crazy. It's like their nature. It's the personality that they've developed. And when you break out of that pattern, when you find your groundedness and your self-confidence and learn how to control your emotions, not control them as in keep them down, but control them as not have them show up in the first place, you'll find that the monster narcissist isn't as smart and isn't as creative and isn't as functional and isn't as able as you were afraid that they were. And you'll start realizing that you see the patterns, you see the words, you see what's going on, and you start being able to navigate it. It's, believe it or not, I watch a lot of fishing shows. My husband fishes a lot, and he loves fishing shows. And for these tournaments, the people who are competing will go out to the lake ahead of time. They'll evaluate it. They'll find the good spots. They'll find the bad spots. They'll find out when more people are on the water, less people are on the water. They'll do some of their homework. They'll prepare. They'll be present. And they'll notice from a grounded place, okay, what's the best way to do this? And they kind of come up with a little bit of a game plan. That's the same thing that happens when you are able to stay calm and centered and regulated when a narcissist feels crazy, is having a fight, is picking a fight with you. When you know how to stay level, you know how to navigate what they're saying and what they're doing. You know the exact word to say and when to say it and how to say it to make the most impact. You become smarter, and you become smarter than the narcissist. Before, you were scared of them. They knew how to push their buttons. They knew how to make you feel scared, and they used it relentlessly because they arrogantly thought that that was the way to do it. If you want to negotiate with a narcissist, you have to realize that's the place that they're coming from. And if you try to fight fire with fire, you're going to end up with a big firebomb because they've, their scruples and their guidelines are way over the top and yours are not. You're not going to win in a fight with a narcissist. But what you will win is when you stay grounded and a narcissist gets upset. Now you're not in a fight. Now they're fighting, but you're not, which means that you're watching and you're observing and you're noticing what's going on. You're not getting hijacked. And you see where you can work through, where you can move through this, and start standing up for yourself and start saying the things that have an impact, saying the things that they can hear, and helping them turn from a monster into someone who is more level and balanced and can think more clearly. Makes me think of those Snickers commercials. Do you remember those? Where someone's acting like a diva or someone's acting like a queen. Or they're acting over the top and they give them a Snickers and they come down. In a very weird, simple way, that's a lot of what's happening with a narcissist. They're blowing up because they feel dysregulated. When you can help them feel regulated by staying calm yourself and seeing clearly through all the crap that they're spouting, through all the threats that they're making, when you're able to stay grounded and say, oh, well, that's interesting. Huh. Believe it or not, you realize that you've been watching or having a relationship in 2D when actually the relationship is 4D. You're seeing it from only 2 dimensions, but in reality, there's all these other rabbit holes and answers and solutions that you can't see because the narcissist brings you down to their level. When they get angry and they trigger you to get angry, all is lost. But when they get angry and you're able to stay balanced and you're able to stay present, then there's no winning. They can't win because they can't think as clearly or as deeply or as multidimensionally as you can. They can see as black and white, yes or no, up or down. I'm right, you're wrong. I have to win, you have to lose. That's how they're able to see it. You're able to look for solutions which benefit both of you, which also work. But the only way to do it is learning how to regulate your nervous system. Millions of ways to do it, and you have to find the ones that you like. So if you're looking to find some calm and peace and save a relationship or walk away from a relationship because they're toxic and narcissistic, go to inspiremassage.com or soon to be ritahickmancoaching.com. It's not there yet. And check out what the options are. I can help you come up with a game plan just with a strategy call. We can invite you and welcome you into the warm village of women that we have and help you get the tools and the support and the information and the resources you need. And we can help you take your life back. It's a lot simpler than you think. And even though it's scary, it's a lot less scary than you think too, especially when you get the love and the support and the information that you need and the tools to help you stay calm when you need to stay calm. So if you're interested, let me know. We do hostage negotiation skills classes every week. And I'm about to go do this as soon as I sign off, where we learn how to get the skills, get the information, get the practice that we need to negotiate with someone who has mental health issues, which is what a narcissist has. So, okay, I think that's it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to go do my hostage negotiation class and facilitate that. And if you're interested, go to inspiremassage.com and we'll get you sorted out. Okay? Have a great rest of your day. Bye.